Hello, this is Rachel, and this is Design Resilience, the corner of the internet where we talk about building daily habits and practices that can establish your resilience, that can build a foundation for when life throws you curveballs. And those can be amazing curveballs, and those can be really stressful, scary things. But either way, you don't have to wait until those things happen to begin to design your resilience. You can start today. And I want to do kind of a crossover episode today, a little bit of financial well-being and a little bit of personal growth and development, because I just finished a book that I really like. It's called Rich AF by Vivian Tu, who is a TikTok personality known as your Rich BFF. And I heard about her on a podcast, and I really loved her origin story. She was a child of Chinese immigrants who, kind of followed that American dream system of go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and you can be successful. And the environment she'd grown up in was a super frugal one, as her parents, being immigrants, were putting their life together now in the United States. And so she was raised with that sort of really frugal mindset. But as she achieved her education and she got a job in Wall Street, she kind of saw the other end of the spectrum. And so she was lucky enough to have a mentor who was also Asian American and a woman, and help her understand how to navigate this very different financial system from what her parents had exhibited for her as she was growing up. And so I read the book in maybe 2 days, loved it. I love the really conversational nature of it. It is explicative laced. So if that's something that bothers you, certainly don't do the audiobook, but maybe read so that you can skip over. But the book itself talked about a ton of really helpful things. It talked about how to think about your income. And she makes the statement that you can never save more than you earn, but you can always earn more. And so this idea of kind of negotiating your salary or having side hustles or passive income and all that stuff, she talks about taxes and investing and the way to think about debt and all of these kinds of things. But specifically for today, I want to talk about her approach to budgeting, because budgeting has become a pillar of my and my husband's lives. We do a budget every single month and we follow it through the end of the month. And so for me personally, I know how valuable a budget has been, as I have had to be resilient through major up levels in income when I got a huge new job, major downshifts in income when I lost my job and was unemployed for 6 months, major shifts in my bills as we have moved to Colorado and we haven't sold our Texas house yet. So we're now managing 2 households worth of bills. And so budgeting is a really important part, and I like the way she approached it. So I took some notes, and I want to share with you out of Vivian Tu's Rich AF book, her kind of step-by-step guide to budgeting and some options that you can do. So budgeting wasn't something I started doing until I went through a financial class, because it always felt really restricted to me. It felt like this was just a list of all the things I couldn't do. And since I've begun budgeting, I realized it's not. It's a freedom plan. It is a plan that lets me know exactly what I can spend money on, and that I control the categories. I control where I give my money the destination to go. And so I, first of all, have a very positive mindset towards budgeting, and I want more people to have positive ideas about budgeting. So if any of these tips are helpful, then I have done my job today. So the first thing that Vivian says about starting a budgeting journey, if you've never done it before, is auditing your spending. And so that doesn't mean, first of all, it means no judgment. That means no shame. It is simply an understanding of how you are spending your money. And so she said that you can take, if you're using a checking account or if you're using credit cards, pull 2 months worth of statements and organize the places that you've spent your money into the categories that you see. So category examples could be kind of housing and utilities. Could be transportation, which would be car insurance, gas, a car payment. It could be groceries or like general shopping. It could be going out to eat, entertainment, kind of just looking at your spending and seeing what categories you have and how much you're spending in each one. This is just for awareness, just to see what in your natural life you do. And this is helpful because sometimes we don't even realize, especially if we've got devices that we can pay with, or we're always swiping a card, we might not be registering that in our mind that we're spending money in certain ways. So this is just a self-exploration and learning exercise, is pulling it down. She also mentioned and has references for apps that will do this. If you connect your accounts to that app, that it will pull down all of your expenses and categorize them for you. So options. But that's step one. Just look at 2 months worth of your spending and see where you're spending your money. The second step in this audit process is highlighting those categories as green, yellow, and red. So that stoplight coloring. Green is the stuff that you must have that probably won't change very much. So this is stuff like your rent or mortgage. These are your insurances, your car payment, kind of stuff that is really not going anywhere. Green, gotta have green. Yellow is the stuff that you need, but can probably be negotiated. So this is stuff like your cell phone bill, maybe your any kind of subscriptions or things that you're using that you're paying that you may be able to find better rates on. Sometimes insurance can be in this category. If you are paying really high car insurance premiums, you might be able to go with another company and lower that. So that could be a yellow category. So stuff that you need, but that you can probably negotiate or find better rates. And then the red category is stuff that you do because you like it, or stuff that you don't need to live. And this does not mean the coloring. You could honestly choose any 3 colors you wanted. It could be blue, green, and purple, but red, yellow, green is just an easy recognizable. So you can see across those categories what you're spending in, stuff that you have to have that you probably can't change, stuff that you need to have that you can probably change, and stuff that you're doing just because you like it. So you've audited and you've categorized your spending over 2 months. Now, you're ready to create a budget. And I will say that in my experience, the first time you create a budget, it's not going to work. Even the second and third time you create your budget for like the next month or even a week, it's probably not going to work. It takes about 90 days to get a good handle on your actual in-motion spending habits, and that's totally okay. So don't even think about starting a budget without knowing that you're not going to get it right for the first 3 months. If you do, amazing. But more than likely, it'll be a quarter from now, 3 months from now, before you have a budget that you write it down. And then at the end of the month, you're like, yeah, that was pretty right on. So give yourself grace there. Now, Vivian talks about 4 different styles of budgeting. The first one is 50%, 30%, 20%, or 50, 30, 20. And the idea is that 50% of your money that you make every month should go to that green category, the stuff that you have to have. 30% should go to that yellow category, that stuff that you need to have. And 20% should go to that red category, that stuff that you're doing because you like it. She notes that over time, you will want to make sure that 20% also includes some saving, but that's not where we are right now. Right now, we're just trying to organize our money. So you can take your total amount that comes in and divide it by that and line it up with the color categories and see if that works. So that might be a great way, easy way for you to start that. If that doesn't work, another option you can try is the budget that my husband and I use, which is called a zero-based budget. Now, that doesn't mean that you're ending up with $0 at the end of the month. What it means is that every single dollar that you get has a very specific job, so that you take all your income and you assign it to things, whether red category, green category, yellow category, every single dollar that comes in has a job. So that if you look at the money you have coming in and the money you have planned to go out, whether it's paying bills, buying groceries, going to the restaurant, saving, investing, every single dollar in zero-based budgeting has a job. So that you know where everything's going, even if you're saving it, even if you're investing it, you assign a job to every single dollar so that at the end of the plan, there's no money left over without a job. So that's what we use, and I really like it. The third budget strategy that Vivian talked about is called save first. So a lot of times when we are maybe not budgeting or we're just kind of going through life, we will spend first, pay our bills, get our groceries, go clothes shopping, go out with friends. And then if there's anything left over, we'll save it. And this is the flip of that. This is choosing a dollar amount and saving that or investing it first. That usually involves direct deposit. So when you get your check, you assign a certain amount of money that goes into a savings account, or it gets invested in a 401k or something like that. So that is a way that you can make sure that you are taking care of yourself first, and you're not paying creditors and you're not paying stuff like that. You're paying yourself first, and then you're paying for your life with what's left over. So that's the third type. And the fourth type is called half payment. So Vivian talked about a time when all of her bills kind of front loaded at the beginning of the month. So basically her first paycheck in the month was gone. Like there was no money left over after she paid her rent and her utilities and all of the normal bills, just because of all their due dates being at the beginning of the month. And so she started doing half payment so that every time she got a paycheck, she put away half of it for her bills, and then the other half of that paycheck she could spend. So she was a little bit ahead of when the bills were due, but she didn't have one whole paycheck that was just gone to bills. And so she split it up so that she was not necessarily paying half every paycheck, but she was keeping a certain amount in her checking account out of each paycheck for a bill that was due at the first of the month. So I think that's really smart. My husband and I have done split payments like that, where we want to take half of a mortgage out of the middle of the month paycheck and half of a mortgage out of the front, so that it's not such a big hit out of a single paycheck. She also wrapped up this whole budgeting conversation with the idea of value-based spending, which is an idea that I guess I'd thought of, but I hadn't heard about it in the way that she explained it. So it's basically understanding how much money you earn for real, like take home, for an hour of work, and looking at your expenses related to that ratio. So an example she told is that she had chosen a luxury handbag that she wanted to purchase, and she picked the exact one. She knew the color, the type of leather. She researched it. She knew exactly what she wanted, and she saved up for that bag. And when she bought the bag, it was one of the biggest, most exciting things she'd ever done, because she had committed the time to that specific goal. And so that bag, even though it had cost her hours of her income, she did the conversion. She knew how much that she brought home for the hours that she worked and how much she made for real per hour. And she's like, this bag is worth it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to work towards it. Other purchases that she's made, both luxury goods and just regular run-of-the-mill stuff, she still runs that calculation in her head. So she knows she brings home X dollars per hour. So just as an example, let's say that when you figure out like your take home pay and you divide it by the hours you work, let's say you make $15 take home an hour, not, they pay you $15 an hour, but like you take home $15 an hour. And so you want to go out with your friends, and that it's probably going to cost you $50, right? You're going to have some appetizers, a couple drinks. And so that is ultimately 3 hours of working time. Is this experience with your friends? It probably is. Is this experience with your friends worth working for 3 hours at work? And this framing does a lot of things. First of all, it helps you really understand what you value, what matters to you. It helps you look at your job. Is an hour at your job 10 years? Or is an hour at your job pleasant? And it's just an hour. And so that you can make decisions about your employment. But it also helps you center yourself when you're spending. So it's about your value trade-off. It's not as much about what is, do I want to buy this because so-and-so's going to think it's cool, or because I'm trying to be, accepted or in the in crowd or whatever. It brings your purchasing decisions back down to your own values and your own priorities, which I think is hugely important for a budget. And she kind of doubles down on this concept by having an entire section at the end of the budgeting section called or about boundaries with your family, boundaries with your friends. And I have personal experience from this when we were paying off our debt. We were in the process we did was the Dave Ramsey baby steps, and we were in baby step 2, which was about paying off your debt. And so we declined trips, we declined dinners, we declined a lot of things because spending that extra money at that time was not as valuable to us. And so we had to set boundaries, and we got teased. We got told, that we needed to buy a newer car, that we needed to live in the moment and all this kind of stuff. Luckily, we did have some friends who were also on the same journey with us. And they said, we respect your envelopes, which is the cash system that we use to operate, make sure that we stayed in our budget. But if you're going to budget, that may mean changing the way that you spend money. It doesn't have to. It just may mean that. And it may mean that you put different values on different things. It may mean that what you used to do, you may have no problem going to Friday night happy hour every week with your buddies, but it may mean you need to cut back because you have other financial goals or priorities. It's just not in the budget anymore for this week or for this month or whatever. And so, budgeting is so much more than making a plan for your money. It ultimately becomes a personal development tool because you ground into your priorities. You rediscover what you want included in your life, and you learn to set boundaries that may not be popular and that may not make sense to other people. But I have found that by doing so, my life is I have so much more peace of mind. I have so much more confidence in the way that my finances move because I make this choice to do this. And while I only do one of the 4 budgeting styles, I love that Vivian offered 4, and they're all explained really well in the book. If this is something that sounds interesting to you, I highly recommend you get Vivian's book. This is not sponsored in any way. I just read it and loved it. And I love doing crossover work like this, where I am doing personal growth and development by reading a book. It helped me in my personal finance. I have taken pages of notes from her book about plans and tactics and things I'm going to use. And so I really appreciate that information being available to me in this way. So I hope this was helpful. Again, Rich AF by Vivian Tu. Quick, meaty, but quick read. And I hope that you found this helpful. And if you did, I'll see you next week.